We are almost live. We're kind of alive for a completely unnecessary podcast for Wednesday, October 29th, 2014, alongside fresh off the honeymoon and fresh off the marriage, Ian Ferguson.
Howdy.
That was delayed. That hasn't changed at all. I'm Pat Contry. So coming up on the show today, we'll be discussing the DC announcing their movie lineup, only to be followed by Marvel announcing their movie events at the Marvel event. That's the Marvel event announcing movies. See how tired I am? We're talking about modern games and tutorials, Call of Duty sales on the decline, WWE Hell in a Cell recap and thoughts about what's going to go forward in wrestling, and your Q&A. So, Ian, how was the wedding?
Well, the wedding was super fun. You were there. There were cupcakes. There were cupcakes and
lots of icing on the cupcakes.
Lots of icing on the cupcakes. And there were a lot of people there, and a couple people before the wedding told me, don't feel like you have to go say hi to everyone, but Vonnie and I did our rounds, but I don't even really know who showed up and who wasn't there. There was a lot of people, but you don't honestly see that many people outside of your head table or people who come up to you. And we had a blast, and I had a lot of friends in from out of town that I was really happy to see, and Vonnie and I had a great time, and the honeymoon in Toronto was even better. I love that city. I've always loved that city. When I lived in Buffalo, I'd go up there every weekend, and Vonnie had always wanted to go, and she didn't want to leave. But we went to some of the museums. We went to a board game bar called Snakes and Loggers. That was really awesome. We went to a bunch of different restaurants. We ate really well. And yeah, without getting into a lot of, detail about, all the things we saw and did, the wedding and the honeymoon were fantastic. I joked with Vonnie the morning after the wedding that the main reason people have weddings is so that you can experience the utter relief and relaxation of knowing that it's all done.
That's it.
Because, that's the main thing. That all this effort you put into it. Because if you love someone, you're going to be with them.
Then why have it?
Because you do it for family and stuff like that. But then you wake up the next morning, and you're like, oh, it's finished. And we had a smaller party with family and friends in Buffalo that was way more laid back. It was very casual, jeans and t-shirts, and that was fun, too. Some good pictures from that. But the only thing I can't say is that I feel rested. Because, we did as much as we could while we were in Toronto, and we were always trying to see people in Buffalo. And, I'm exhausted. We landed on Monday, and we were both back to work on Tuesday.
Oh, woe is me. I had a 2-week vacation.
Yeah.
So, you had the honeymoon. You also went back home to Buffalo. You didn't really mention that.
Yeah, so after the wedding, we spent 2 days in San Diego just chilling, and then we went back to Buffalo to see family before going up to Toronto, so that we could see the family, because my mom's side of the family is 30 people, and there was no way, they could all come out. So we did that, but, Vonnie was very happy. She knocked off 12 issues of X-Men Volume 4 and a shitload of trade paperbacks, and she got super caught up on a lot of her comics, and yeah, it was, I don't know, just very relaxing hanging around home. She gets along famously with my parents, as do I, and it was just, that was a really nice section of the vacation as well. That was probably the most relaxing part of it, was just hanging out and doing nothing.
So while you were doing nothing, I've been doing some stuff myself. Went to Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Mm-hmm.
What was that, a week ago?
I don't know.
2 weeks ago? I don't know. I'm losing track of my mind and time. Losing track of everything. That was awesome, though. I got to, I was roommates with Joey Rue DeSena, who used to do videos called 16-Bit Gems. And also, I got the room with Breno Floss, my buddy Brent Black, who also performed. That was the first time there in Portland. And it was great. We went to Ground Control on Friday night, which is like tradition. Got to play some nice pinball machines. Unfortunately, they did not have the Medieval Madness there or at the convention. I think it must have been getting fixed. So it wasn't in either. Last year, Jared, Joey, and I played Medieval Madness for 2 hours. So that wasn't there. But they had a bunch of other good ones. You'd love it. I mean, Black Knights, you like that one that's there. They have Pinbot. They have Pinbot. I think Broad had Pinbot. They have all the era you like, besides some newer ones. And they have the cool newer Williams ones like the well, you don't like it, but I like the bar brawl one. I think it's a really fun one.
I fucking hate that.
I like it. I think
Champion
it's fun.
Pub. I can't stand that one.
I think it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, to each their own.
I like how you get so bent out of shape of that.
No,
But-
because it's really the only. It's one of the very few. I like pinball so much that even bad pinball machines I generally like, but Champion Pub I lose interest like immediately.
okay. I think
it's just
cool.
weird. Yeah,
The little jump rope thing, you know.
too many gimmicks. Yeah, the jump rope and the speed bag and then the whatever. I mean,
You know what cool one they have? One you don't see often. The Popeye one. That's
that's a
beautiful-
weird one.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You go up, you have the ship up top.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a really cool one though.
But
You don't see one.
back glass is strange. His arms are replaced with flippers.
Yes, that's
and it's got like this weird environmentalist message. It's a very
that's
weird
cool
pinball
though.
machine.
It's-
Oh
you
yeah,
don't see like stuff like that. I'll end up getting Big Lebowski, I guess, at some point. I don't know. Anyway, so I did my panel. I met all the fans, which was great. I bought some manuals, and then I did the panel with Steve Lynn and Frank Cifaldi. Retro Game Roadshow went very well. And then I got an item at the auction. I was absentee, so I put in a phantom bid, and I bought myself a Sega Master System kiosk, which I've wanted for years. They never come up for auction. It's not here yet. It's gonna be mailed to me, but I am the king of the kiosk. Yay me! I also did a solo Patcast. You said you weren't going to listen to any of it, but I know you watched some of it. I saw some
I didn't.
clips on YouTube.
Oh no,
you commented on clips.
I made
on YouTube.
comments. Doesn't mean I listened to a
what,
single word of it.
So you loaded up the URL and hit stop as soon as the video. Like, at least give me the ad revenue from that, or give us the ad revenue
yeah,
from
that's
that.
exactly what I did. I hit stop right before you start talking, and I scroll through the comments, and I make a couple of comments.
How do you comment on something that you didn't watch?
No, I just comment on other people commenting.
Why didn't you want to comment or watch? Why didn't you want to watch me on my own?
Because it's weird.
Why is it weird?
Because you're just talking to yourself in a room.
What do you think most radio shows are?
I don't know. That's just strange to me.
I had a radio show in college. I did some solo.
Maybe if there wasn't a video associated with it. But
Was that too weird? You don't like your replacement at all? I think your replacement was very, very well prepared for a lot of the conversation.
it's got the right gut.
yeah, we ate well on the honeymoon.
Yeah. But no, Vani did try to listen to it, and she said that your sweet sounds put her directly to sleep. She was asleep within 20 minutes of trying to listen to that podcast.
Well, there you go. 20 minutes in, I'm not even sure what I was talking about. But I also did an interview, which was originally was going to be part of the podcast, but it went so long. I interviewed Brent Floss for about an hour, just about life on YouTube, how it was 6-7 years ago when he started out versus now. Really fascinating, and no one really talks about it, how YouTube works and how you get into it, how do you get noticed, blah, blah, blah. So that'll be a totally separate project, I guess, inside the YouTube studio, you can call it. And maybe I'll interview other people along the way. So that'll be cool. And we're also gearing up for the 5th annual NES Marathon, benefiting the Children's Miracle Network on November 8th and 9th. We are still taking donations. They're very, very tax deductible, 100% tax deductible.
Very tax deductible. So tax deductible, in fact.
At nesmarathon.com. And also, we're still looking for sponsors. We're accepting sponsors up until probably Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, because I need all the materials in for that. We're going to be testing the stream next week, and then we're going to be... Are you excited for the marathon?
I am, as long as I'm not nearly this tired.
Last year, we had a whole segment on... I'll add that. We talked about our marathon memories of the past. We can talk about our marathon memories from last year real quick later on. So that'll be fun. We're going to have lots of guests. James Rolfe, Brent Floss will be a guest. Pro Jared, Andre from Black Nerd Comedy. Well, he is Black Nerd Comedy. It's not from it. And a few other folks. Maybe 8-Bit Alley will get in the action. And so that'll be cool. And we're going to have giveaways. We're still going through it. We're kind of a little behind this year due to life events and stuff, but we'll still do well. We're also gonna have, which we didn't do last year, we'll have the classic moments from the 4th annual NES Marathon. Might as well talk about it right now. What are your fondest memories of the NES Marathon last year?
Oh, mostly sucking at sports games and dancing to Maniac Mansion. That's pretty much all I really.
That's all you remember? I remember going fairly smoothly last year.
Yeah, it did go very smooth. I didn't. My eyes started screwing up on me probably 6-7 in the morning.
Oh, I remember you were
trying to
more delirious than usual last year.
No, I wasn't delirious. I don't even think I was wacky. The problem was my eyes got tired. I was awake and trying to match up email addresses with donations for games. It's a 3-step process, and that was 2 steps too many for me towards the end.
Aw, poor Ian. We're also going to set up, this is a good reminder for me, I'm going to set up a way to donate via PayPal if you don't have a credit card. However, towards the main goal, it's going to have to be Ustream, since our minimum goal is 10,000. So that's coming up. Please donate. Even $1 helps. And yeah, so this has been a lot of superhero movie news going on.
Yeah.
During the solo podcast last week, that was most of it, was talking about superhero stuff.
Yeah, and you commented on the DC lineup, which I obviously I probably should have been around for.
Yes.
I mean, what is there for me to do here besides? I mean, I can say a billion times that Zack Snyder's awful. I don't think he has any clue what he's doing. You know, you look at. Here are my two things that I would say about the DC movie lineup. I think it's really ballsy of DC to go ahead and try to lay out a Marvel Universe style lineup. The reason being is, okay, so Superman did well. Why? Because it's Superman. Okay, I thought the movie was awful.
It did fairly well.
Fairly well. Yeah, it wasn't even a runaway success.
It wasn't like Iron Man success.
No. It did fairly well. I hated it. Everyone knows that. But it generated enough money to get, Batman v Superman Dawn of Butt Crack shit, greenlit. And
I don't think that's a proper title, Ian.
I think it might be. And that's going to do well because there's Batman and Superman in it. But after that, that's where the lineup starts to fall apart. People don't know Suicide Squad. I even people who are fans of Wonder Woman, and I am, don't think that Gal Gadot is a good cast. What happens if after Batman vs Superman these movies start tanking? I mean, there's no guarantee. I don't think there's any guarantee. I mean, there's no guarantee we're going to see this through to the end.
Well, one of my points is that since they're going in the opposite direction and they're trying to introduce like 4 or 5 characters, I guess, in Batman versus Superman court case of the ages, that what if you don't care for any of those performances in there? What if when Jason Momoa shows up underwater for those 5 seconds, what if you're like, I don't want to see a movie with that guy? You already like ruined the opportunity.
Right. You're killing right. By putting all of them in this one movie, you're potentially shooting yourself in the foot. If they don't like that performance, then you've already guaranteed a certain chunk of people aren't going to go see those single movies. That's with that being said, the Jason Momoa Aquaman is the only one that I have any interest in seeing, and that's only if Zack Snyder doesn't direct it.
Because at least that's somewhat inspired casting.
I think that's a very neat choice for cast for Aquaman, and I am actually an Aquaman fan. So that I would want to see if Zack Snyder's not touching it.
Well, he's only going to be doing.
I think the bigger ones.
Yeah,
right?
He's only doing Justice League Part 1 and 2.
Okay.
So that was the other big announcement. They're going to do Part 1 and 2 2 years apart, which is interesting. Which makes you believe, okay, it's going to be the same story. You guess it being Part 1 and Part 2 that it will be. So then they have Cyborg guy has his own movie in 2020.
Cyborg.
The Cyborg guy. A Green Lantern reboot, which will be interesting. It could be. In
2020, just long enough for everyone to forget about the last one.
You feel bad that they couldn't even connect that one. Then again, we're going to have a Deadpool movie, so Ryan Reynolds is going to be doing that anyway. So. Yeah. So anyway, so go on, Ian.
But we've got the Marvel. So then the Marvel comes out and they roll out their entire Phase 3 plans
in an Apple-style event, which is really cool. No one's done this before.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got some interesting stuff. So there's the Captain America Civil War, but then we've also got the we've got Doctor Strange officially announced. That was officially announced. The Guardians of the Galaxy 2. We have Thor 3 Ragnarok. We have Avengers Age of Ultron. We have Black Panther coming, which I'm excited for. I love Black Panther. Most of what I've read has been his involvement in the X-Men, but I like Black Panther quite a bit. And then you've got more deep cuts, because at this point, Marvel can do no wrong. We've got Captain Marvel, and we've also got an Inhumans movie, which is going to make my wife incredibly happy, and a lot of people like me very confused.
Yeah, I think what's most interesting about this is that well, there's a lot of things that interest me.
But we're also forgetting the last two real quick: Avengers: Infinity War Part 1 and Infinity War Part 2. So those were the movies that were announced.
Well, we knew there was going to be an Infinity Gauntlet with Thanos.
There had to have been, yeah.
But we didn't know they were going to do it in 2 movies, which is really cool to split it.
And I didn't know that they were going to push it so far back. I mean, this is also to me a way of them showing that they know what they're doing and that they're really planning. They show you Thanos at the end of the first Avengers movie,
which is 2012,
right? And they're not really and he's in Guardians of the Galaxy, but in kind of a side role. They're not really bringing him in until Avengers 3.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well, he might show up in Avengers 2 or Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Sure, but
not as a main villain.
yeah. So as a main villain, I mean, they're teasing that incredibly early.
Well, they're sort of establishing. They've been establishing all the gems in the movies one by one.
Yep.
You know, you know, in Loki's staff, there's a gem.
Yes.
The Collector had one, and the other one in Guardians of the Galaxy was it one or two of them, or it's the same one in Guardians of the Galaxy from Thor 2, and then I think there's another one in Odin's vault of weapons. So they're establishing that all these was there 5 or 6 of them that are out there. You know, so he has to go get them. So I guess it's going to take 4, 5, 6 more movies in order for him to get them all.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
But I think
You know?
I what I think is really cool is that they chose Thanos to kind of be the long running bad guy.
Well, he's
here.
the biggest villain in the Marvel universe.
Well, he is, but he's also unknown to a lot of people. I mean, you can't forget back at the end of Avengers 1 how many people didn't have any freaking clue who the hell Thanos was.
Then this slow burn makes even more sense.
Yes.
Because in Guardians of the Galaxy, you're like, this guy's badass. Like,
Yeah.
he's on his throne. Now we realize this is a threat. Oh, this is the guy from Avengers. And
Right.
then he'll show up more and more, and he'll definitely be in Guardians of the Galaxy too, and he'll definitely be in Captain Marvel. So I don't know where we can go down the list and say what's surprising the most with this. Are you surprised they're doing Civil War this early, 2016? I mean, basically only 2 movies away. They're going to set it up in Avengers 2, which everyone's already forgetting that the next Marvel movie coming out is Avengers 2.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of weird? It's like, oh, Avengers 2 is coming out. Then you're going to have Ant-Man.
No, I don't think it's that weird. I think it's... What's weird is that they say the secret identities aren't going to play as big of a role, which was a huge part of Civil War. I liked Civil War. I know some people... It seems to be such a love or hate arc, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm just interested in seeing how they play it out without having a bunch of... Because Civil War brought so many characters into it, into its storyline, and they could do that, but without establishing them first, they run the risk of making too many of the moviegoers scratch their head. So I think for Civil War, it really needs to be... I think thematically, it's more going to be Captain America and Iron Man and very different viewpoints on
registering superheroes.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost like mutant registration, but it's superhero registration.
Right. So I think it's going to be more the politics of it and less the actual event that it was.
Well, I think, but you have to have the ramifications of in there with the hero struggling. So this is why the rumor was that, and I guess they had been talking, at least so much, is that Marvel Studios has been talking with Sony to at least try to get Spider-Man in that Civil War movie, because Spider-Man was almost like he was caught in the middle of that. And at least if he brought Spider-Man in, obviously that'd be a huge win for Marvel Studios to be able to get him into the universe. And Sony would win out too, to invest life into that rotting carcass of a franchise they have now. They're not doing much with.
I agree as well. Instead of them, shitting out these movies that people always say, hey, they're okay.
They're products. They're not even films to me.
No.
I mean, you can say, oh, the Marvel Studios are products. Yeah, but you can see artistic merit in those.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 was like, okay, it's like 6 out of 10 at most. It's like, all right, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I don't want to watch it again. And I hate to say it because Spider-Man's my favorite character. I would love to see him get a movie in the style and tone of Guardians of the Galaxy made that well. That would be great.
Yeah, I've never been a huge Spidey fan. I think he's best in auxiliary roles when he's helping the Avengers or stuff. He's good for wisecracks. But, I've never been... I saw the first 2, didn't see the third. I had no interest in seeing the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Anyway, I mean, as far as that goes, currently what they're saying is... Feige was vague in saying that it was either not true at all or something not ready to be announced yet about Spider-Man. But, I mean, that's just speak. He can't say anything. I think it would be hugely beneficial for Sony to make some money on this and let Marvel Studios do something.
Yeah, they can cross-pollinate because the Sony movies lined up is like, there's not going to be Amazing Spider-Man 3, it's going to be Sinister 6, and they're going to do a female-oriented one off of the Spider-Man universe. So they're going to do a Black Cat movie? No one's going to see that, especially how they're not really building them up at all.
Yeah.
So it's like Sony has to throw in the towel and be like, all right, we've got to do something where it's mutually beneficial. They just have to.
Yeah.
I think they're going to start realizing, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 these are not doing the business of the Marvel movies. When Amazing Spider-Man 2 does not do the business of Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
that's that's a big red flag. That's being that
Sure.
Spider-Man is the biggest superhero in the Marvel universe, and the movie's not even close to being to the top.
I wish
You know.
I wish Fox would do something like that with the X-Men as well, because I enjoyed
At least they're handling that franchise pretty well at this point. Though. Fantastic Four, no, but at least the X-Men they are.
they are, but I still think Marvel Studios would do it better.
Oh, of course. I mean,
And-
at this point, we know that Marvel would do it better because they really haven't screwed up any of these movies by and large. All of them at least have been watchable, and they haven't tarnished. You can say what you will about Iron Man 3 and the Mandarin. I thought it was a gutsy decision to do that. A lot of people disagree.
I thought it was a great movie. I
thought it was good.
Here's the thing. I thought it was a great movie while at the same time not really liking what they did with the Mandarin, but I liked the movie all the same. It was still a good
interesting.
movie.
I like that it was like James Bond, Tony Stark. I like
the
that
only
part
thing
of
I
it.
did not like was the CG jizz fest at the end. Like, I could have really done without that.
1,000 Iron
I
Man
mean,
suits.
it just CG like that bores me to tears. But yeah, no, I thought that was a fun movie.
Let's just run down these real quick and go through them one by one and our thoughts real quick.
Real quick, all right. So I already announced them all, but we've got.
Let's try to go in some order because the list we're looking at is not even in order. At the bottom it is though.
Okay.
So we got Doctor Strange after Civil War. I think Civil War. We're already skipping Ant-Man. I think that's going to be a toss-up, whether or not it's going to be interesting or not to me. I'm going to see all these probably though.
Ant-Man is the one that I have almost zero interest in, and I've explained my reasons before. So Civil War. Interested in, we've talked about it. Doctor Strange, I think, is a good follow-up to it because it's definitely going to be a weirder movie. So it could
Cleanse the palate a bit after
right.
Civil
It could
War.
have it could still have a serious tone, but it's not going to be as serious as Civil War. They cast Benedict Cumberbatch. We talked about that a few weeks ago about the people who were in the running. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is probably going to do just fine as an actor for Doctor Strange. Looks wise though, man, I just can't see him as.
Well, you put a goatee on him, I think he'll be fine. I mean,
He's just.
I think he'll be fine.
He's unique.
But he's like the Christian Bale choice of Batman. Like everyone wanted him and they got him.
Yeah, I mean,
people said Johnny Depp, and I was like, Johnny Depp? No, not Johnny Depp.
I'm
He's
one
too
of
old
the
at this
few
point.
people who was like, Benedict. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have preferred. I mean,
Joaquin Phoenix, would you have preferred?
No, I would have preferred John Hamm.
Oh, John, you want John Hamm for everyone.
I love John Hamm.
And then you have Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which they pushed up to May 5th, 2017. And by the way, they pushed Doctor Strange back from July to November of 2016.
That's what they're accelerating these, and it's
They're
got.
accelerating them. They're getting up to 3 Marvel movies a year. They're going to have
Yes.
them basically starting 2017, May, July, November, which is a great release schedule.
Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I'm excited. It's James Gunn directing it again. I also like that they're trying to keep thematically like some of these more important movies that with more important directors, where the director's vision was really a big part of it.
Sure.
They're getting that movie back again. So we're getting that with Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor, I haven't seen a single Thor movie yet, so I guess I don't care. But I would like to see them. I know people who really like them.
Thor is interesting because I'm always wary for time, and plus these actors get older, that the time between Thor 2 and 3 is like 3 years and like 8 months. Just about. I'm always wary about why can't they do them every 3 years at least, every 2.5. This is almost 4 years in between.
You can do a lot with makeup.
Sure, and plus he's pretty young. He's probably only about 30, 34 at this point, 33, Chris Hemsworth. But the fact of the matter is that it's not as big a deal, I guess, because Thor's going to be showing up in all these other movies anyway. He'll be in Avengers 2. He'll probably be in Civil War.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's
He's
not
still
as big a
getting
deal.
FaceTime.
He's still getting FaceTime. I think Thor is the most interesting in terms of this franchise because the standalones, at least Thor 2, is totally disconnected, really, from all the other, from Earth. It's basically, some of it takes place on Earth, but it's really their own separate story. They're all doing their own thing. That's why it's interesting. It's almost like another palate cleanser where, all right, it's Thor Ragnarok. It's another one of the worlds that Thor goes to and fights,
Sure.
and it gives Thor a chance to shine. Because I think when Thor shows up to Civil War and he shows up to Avengers, he's almost just the muscle, and he doesn't get a chance to do anything.
Right.
So that's fine.
Now Black Panther coming up, I'm really excited about that.
And they've announced he's going to show up in Civil War.
Yeah, well, is he?
Oh yeah.
Okay, fantastic. See, what I'm excited about is they're bringing in Strange, they're bringing in Black Panther. What they're doing is now they're not just reiterating the 4 Avengers, they're bringing in new heroes. So Civil War can be rewritten to focus on two people, really. It can be. You can take that sort of storyline and do that properly, because you have the two main principals, Captain and Iron Man, well established, and they don't always get along in the movies anyways. But you, leading up to Infinity War, you really need as many players in the Marvel Universe as you can have. So I'm happy they're bringing in people like Black Panther and people like Doctor Strange. That's very, very important.
Yeah, and you don't know who else is going to show up in Civil War. There could be other minor characters that they've announced. Obviously, the movie's 2 full years away almost.
Yeah,
so
not
they're
everyone...
not going to start filming for probably another, I'd say, 6-7 months, something like that. So who knows what can happen.
Captain Marvel, I don't know a whole lot about.
That's surprising, and that's the female new version. That's,
okay.
That's not Marvel.
Right.
This is, what's her name as it? Carol Danvers. So this was surprising that the first female lead movie would not be Black Widow. So Black Widow, I guess I realized she can't carry her own film. It'd just be a spy movie. Just have Black Widow show up in the Captain America movies and Avengers, and
she acts very well, but it's like they said, they feel like Hulk and Black Widow do well best with the Avengers, and that's probably fine. I mean, one of my favorite things about Captain America 2 was actually Scarlett Johansson's portrayal of Black Widow, but it was because she had such a good they played so well off each other. You're right, a Black Widow movie would be a spy movie.
Sure. That's about it. So it's interesting that actually Captain Marvel comes out after Avengers Part 1. It comes out a couple months later. So in between Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and 2, what's that?
Captain Marvel comes out after Avengers Part 1? You mean Avengers Part 2?
Avengers Part 1 in 2018 is May. Captain Marvel's July.
Oh, okay, right.
So
okay.
basically you're going to have the start of Infinity War, which will probably be everyone in the Marvel Universe being splintered and getting their ass kicked by Thanos, and then they're going to try to throw in more of the cosmic stuff in between with Captain Marvel and the Inhumans. And then go back to Part 2 where probably it all comes to a head, where you have like this cosmic multi-dimensional fight, just like the comic book, which honestly I brought up in the show. I'm not a fan of the Infinity Gauntlet story. I think it's pretty shallow.
Infinity Gauntlet is only one part of the Infinity War, though.
But that's the first major part, and that's probably what this 2-part movie's gonna be.
Sure.
So basically, I like splitting it, and I like that it's only a year apart, because then, like I said, you get the in between, and I don't think there's gonna be another Marvel movie announced, at least right now, in between that. So obviously, there's gonna be something probably July 2019 and November 2019, but we're not near yet. That'd be Phase 4. So they have this set now. They have it lined up.
We forgot the Inhumans.
Well, I said about the Inhumans is going to come in between Part 1 and Part 2.
What's interesting about the Inhumans is it's another thing like Guardians of the Galaxy, where there have been multiple casts.
Yes.
So it's going to be very interesting, I think, for a lot of people to see which characters they pull for the actual movie.
So yeah, I'm fairly happy with this list of movies. And of course, alongside this, you're going to have 2 or 3 X-Men movies in there. You're going to have Apocalypse in 2016. That's going to come out, I think, a week or two, or at least a month after Avengers:
I'm
Age of Ultron.
excited for that.
Excuse me, not Avengers: Age of Ultron. About 2016 Civil War. It'll probably be like a month or 2 after that. So it's going to be. This is the age now where you're going to have, if DC does their 2 or 3 a year, Marvel does 3 a year, X-Men and Spider-Man, you're going to have like 8 or 9 major superhero movies a year. Isn't that insane just to think about?
Nuts. Yes.
Would you imagine that even 5-6 years ago there'd be like 9
and
superhero movies a year?
And I know a lot of people are gonna hate that, but I'm cool with it, frankly.
If they're well made, three movies a year from a studio is not a lot. From looking at it as a studio perspective, that's not a lot.
It isn't.
And unlike other studios, these are well mapped out and planned ahead, and they're probably writing at least a basic story. There's rumors that they have these lined up to 2030. Marvel films, like all the way out, like up till we start recasting people next 7 years, like James Bond, start recasting all the superheroes. They're gonna have to start doing it. You know what I mean? Which I guess is what they're gonna have to do. You know, it'd just be like seeing a different inker or different illustrator do Spider-Man. People have to look at it like that. You know, it's gonna be weird though when like Thor stays the same, but then no more Chris Evans. You know what I mean? It won't be all Stark will go. Different, and then Evans is still there. You know, it'd be weird.
I've actually thought about that. I'm going to be very sad when they start recasting.
Yeah,
I mean, I almost wish they would just be like, "Thanks for your services, guys. Clean slate."
But then
then recast everyone.
But then I'll recast everyone.
Yeah,
that's not a bad idea to go about it.
Just because
But then again, is that even weird though? Because then it's like, oh my god, it's like having a whole new Kids on the Block show up for your concert. You know, it's like that's not the Danny I know.
I don't know. I just feel like if we're gonna have to get recasts, I'd rather just have everyone recast and start it all there instead of bits and pieces. Because that's the thing that I hate in movies and I hate in TV shows is when things get recast mid storyline. And if they really have this shit mapped out till 2030, yeah, these guys can't do this forever.
No. Plus, most are only signed to 6 movies.
Right.
I think the big one is Chris Evans only has basically Captain America 3. He's only going to have enough movies to do Avengers, Infinity War Part 1 and 2. Then his 6 movies are done then. Because he's already done 3 Captain Americas and 3 Avengers, and then they split it. I don't know if that counts towards 1 or 2, but you see. So anyway, I'm very surprised about Captain Marvel, but that just shows me that they're like, yeah, we're going to do this. We don't care if you're not familiar with Captain Marvel mainstream audience. We don't care if you're not familiar with Inhumans. You're going to see it.
Well, because after Guardians of the Galaxy did so well, they realized that they could basically take any of their properties, turn it into a movie, and it's going to be fine.
And hell, you might have Captain Marvel show up in Guardians of the Galaxy, too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, who knows? You know, so there you have it. Marvel Studios, you're a wet fanboy dream right now.
So I'm going to bitch about something.
Oh, that's a surprise.
Yeah.
First time back after honeymoon marriage. You think you'd be happier? Why is Ian always upset?
I am happy about lots of things. And I'm even enjoying the game that I'm going to bitch about briefly here. But it's not really the game I'm bitching about. It's modern video games in general. So I got a PS4. And one of the games I got with it was The Evil Within. I love horror games. I hadn't played one or bought one in a while. And I was like, this looks good. I'll pick it up. So, this is like just the first 5 minutes of the game. This is not real spoilers. Tutorials in games these days drive me nuts. I hate the fact that I can't just get a manual anymore. The closest thing you get to a manual is pressing start during a game, and it pulls up an options menu. You know, and it gives you like the basic controls.
It tells you what all the buttons are.
Yeah, what all the buttons are. But so you start the game, and you're hanging upside down, and it tells you how to swing back and forth. You know, using your momentum. And I'm like, okay, so this is a tutorial level, right? So, you know, you grab a knife out of a guy in front of you, and you cut yourself off, right? Okay. And then it says, press X and hold down to, you know, scan your surroundings. So then you see the big brute guy hacking through a corpse on the table. And you're like, oh, well, that's, you know, I don't want to fuck with that shit. So then it's like, okay, now press this button to sneak. And I'm like, right. I got to sneak. I got to sneak around this fucker. Okay, perfect. So I'm sneaking and I'm doing everything as I'm told. And then I get up behind the guy and it's like, press X to stab him. So I press X and I stab him. And then he turns around and a little scene happens where he pushes me on the ground, chops off my arm, and then chops off my head. And I'm like,
that's graphic.
I'm like, well, okay, that didn't work. I said I did something wrong. I'm going to try this again. So I keep following these on-screen cues because I'm thinking this is a tutorial. Now, in my head, I'm like, I should probably just be sneaking around this guy. And Vonnie's like, sneak around him. Just sneak around him.
Sure.
But because I think this is a tutorial, I'm so ingrained in the idea that this is what the game wants me to do.
So it tricked you into being a tutorial.
Yes.
But it wasn't a tutorial.
But this happens in games too sometimes. And finally, I did. I just ran from the... Because, it's like, you know, and then it's like, press X to get the keys. So it's literally introducing all the mechanics.
What it sounds like is like when you're playing Magic Sword in the arcade, where when you first get into something, it tells you what to do the first time. You know?
Right, and that's kind of what it is. But, you know, it's introducing all of these little mechanics one at a time. And I'm like, this is a tutorial. And then finally I say, F it. And I run away from it. And, you know, everything's fine. And just like, had the game just given me a manual... and then I got to play the game, I would have beaten that room my very first time, because I would have seen a large hulking monster, and I would have been like, I don't want to screw around with this, and I would have run from it.
Like you showed someone as a chainsaw.
Yeah, but no, instead, because it's, you know, I'm thinking it's a tutorial, maybe I'm just an idiot, but if you're, basically, it comes down to this, if you're gonna fucking hold my hand, then hold my hand the entire time, and then let me go. Or... just give me my fucking directions on a piece of paper.
What was the precise year you think where this started to really transition up? Where it was like, you know what?
I want to say like 2007, 2008, where
so basically like when the 360 and PS3 came out.
Yeah, and you know some games do it. Yeah, and some games do it well. Where they give you a full 20-minute level or whatever. That's a tutorial, and you get everything. But then there are games that just kind of they don't tell you what they're doing, and it frustrated me to no end.
So basically, the art of good game design has died because a good game will sort of let you discover on your own how to play via the obstacles and the layouts of the first level or so. And now that's totally abandoned for just throw you into something, but we'll hold your hand instead. Versus letting the player discover how to actually play.
Yeah, you're saying it. You're saying that very well. That's kind of what I'm. That's exactly what I'm getting
That's why
at.
I'm here.
So, and it's happened to me before in other games. The more the game tries to tell me what to do, the worse I am at the game, because I think I'm supposed to be playing this game in a very rigid structure when you're not always supposed to be doing that. And it just it drove me nuts. So I don't know. Anyway,
So what is this about? It's just a horror game. You got to escape, and
I have no idea what the fuck it's about right now.
you bought a game. You don't know what it's about.
Well, I don't want to know what it's about. I like the story is
What
the
is it-
reason I bought it.
What does it say in the box?
Oh, you witness a graphic murder and you have to figure it out. But I mean, it
But
gets
you start up hung upside down like Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back with a wampa.
well, not quite. You're in a car, but then there's an accident, and then you're hung upside down, and then
With a wampa.
Yeah, and now I got chased by a bunch of like zombie. It's made by Shinji Ikami, and it's basically a lot of people are saying Shinji. Jesus, I'm saying his name wrong now. Shinji Mikami. Why can't I? Why I know his name? People, fuck. The guy who made Resident Evil. This is basically
Okay, so horror survival.
This is basically Resident Evil 4 Part 2. This is how
Oh.
it's not part of the Resident
It's not
Evil
the
line,
universe?
but it plays very similarly.
Is it first person or third?
It's third person like Resident Evil 4 was. And it's a lot of fun so far. It's very creepy. You know, you walk past a mirror, it cracks, you walk in, you strap yourself into a chair, and that's how you power yourself up. I mean, it's interesting. The zombies don't necessarily appear to be zombies. They get wrapped up in barbed wire, and like then they bleed all over. And
Oh, that
it's a very graphic game.
hardcore, yo.
Yeah, but you know, whatever. Anyway,
Sounds wicked.
anyways, those are the times where I turn that off and I go play something like
I don't know.
I just play an indie game or an arcade game where it's like I know what to do because
Okay.
it's easy.
I'm tired of. I sound old. I don't care. I don't like all the graphic violence in these games. I don't need to see someone get their head chainsawed off. I'm just over it. I don't want to see that in a movie. I don't want to see it in a game. Doesn't mean you can't play it. I just don't. It doesn't appeal to me.
I don't like it in movies is the funny thing, but in games I like playing games that scare me. That's sort of the thing about this game though, is it's not really scaring me yet.
That's just gore. It's not really being scared.
The PT, the playable trailer, the thing that was all over the internet for a while when they released it, the basically the little demo for the new Silent Hills.
Sure.
That's frightening as shit. Like that, I'm looking
And that's
forward
more
to.
psychological.
Yeah,
horror,
that's more
which is, to me, is
psychological.
true horror.
And this looks like it's going to become more psychological too, and they're relying less on the initial gross out. But
When you start off with a guy chainsawing your arm off,
yeah,
how do you digress from
You're right.
that to psychological horror?
Yeah.
That's like having the first scene in Psycho getting the stab in the face,
Right.
or no, it's not how it works. You're supposed to build.
yeah,
up to
you are.
something.
Well, and that's exactly it. When in the first enemy you face can decapitate you viciously on the floor.
Enough with the decapitations with the chainsaw. We get it. It's a dangerous, ugly weapon, and also is good at pruning trees. All right. So this was interesting. This is something we've spoken about on or off since we've done this great podcast for a year and a couple months already. Call of Duty sales reportedly to continue to decline year over year over the past few years.
So the pre-orders aren't really great right now for
Advanced Warfare.
Advanced Warfare, and I mean, normally 2 years ago, like Black Ops 2, which is considered by many to be the best in the series.
Well, this is the stats.
Yeah,
Advanced Warfare is now pacing almost 40% behind Ghost, which came out last year,
yeah.
and almost 70% behind 2012's Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
That's a significant drop.
That's huge. And that's what I'm trying to get at. You know, Black Ops 2, I remember we had a wall full of our receipts, that were our pre-orders, that we had to get copies in for. The game, Advanced Warfare, comes out, in less than a month? I have one pre-order.
Huh. So is this... We spoke about how, basically that you're going to have, 3 different Call of Duty franchises, and then every 3 years a new one will come out, and those... But is there still, I guess, too much fatigue year over year?
Yeah, I think it's just fatigue.
It's just too
and I
much
also
fatigue.
think...
Because you're not just... So basically everyone... It's not like I'm just a Black Ops guy. You get Black Ops, you're also going to get new Advanced Warfare, you're going to get Ghosts. You know what I mean? It's not going to stop every year.
Well, I think this is another thing that's making people cautious about it. Black Ops 2, like I said, I don't play these, so if people are going to come at me in the comments, whatever. But Black Ops 2 seems to be the fan favorite, okay? Could be wrong about that, but from everyone I've talked to, Black Ops 2 was the pinnacle of the series, okay? So you had the pinnacle of the series, and then you had Ghosts come out. And people bought Ghosts, and they hated it.
Had a dog.
Yeah, it did. That you could turn into a wolf for $2.99. Yeah, and people couldn't. People hated it. I had people trading in their copies of Ghosts to get back Black Ops 2. So Black Ops 2. So you have a really good one followed by a really shitty one, and then people start to realize now with this one, why take the risk if I can just keep playing Black Ops 2? People are finally realizing I don't need to buy this every year if I have the best one right here.
And plus, a first-person, I'd hate to say it, that a first-person shooter's life on a good first-person shooter is only a year lifespan.
Yeah.
A good first-person shooter should play for like 2-3 years at least.
Oh, yeah.
And while they have DLC, and not even DLC, have enough game modes to keep it interesting and keep rediscovering it. Like an Unreal Tournament, when they were making that fucking game, which is the best first-person shooter series ever, it would come out every 3 or 4 years. Don't roll your eyes. Every 3 or 4 years in between, which is a perfect amount of time to do it.
I like Quake 3.
Sure you do. Well, you're a heathen.
Yeah.
So this doesn't mean obviously Call of Duty is going away, because even if they drop 70%, they're still making more money than 98% of games out there. We know that, but maybe this means that they have to at least, I don't know, maybe every year and a half between the new games.
Well, what worries me about that though is jobs for the people who, Activision overestimates the popularity of games. They think these things are evergreen, like they did with Guitar Hero, and they thought COD was going to be evergreen, and they have 3 teams working on Call of Duty now.
Yeah.
What if the sales on this prove to be bullshit, and they realize suddenly we can't have 3 teams working on Call of Duty, and they have to scale back again? People are going to lose jobs because they can't stop fucking milking a cash cow when they see the signs on the wall.
It's not just that; the production costs of these games keep going up and up too.
Right. And I love them, but we've got fucking Kevin Spacey in this one. That's not cheap.
They didn't get Kevin Spacey for a couple $100.
No.
That was probably hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get him to do motion, capture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's right there. That's all right. Doesn't work out. That's like, I don't know, 7 employees' salaries. Bye. You're gone. Because you know what I mean.
And I've heard
when you put that sort of investment into it.
I've heard from a very good source that, and I'm sure they say this sort of shit in the previews too. I don't read them, but the single player is supposed to be decent, but people buy this for online, and the online in this has because you've got those exoskeleton whatever things. There's like double jumping and stuff. And I've heard,
Unreal Tournament, okay.
And I've heard it plays more like Halo or something like that, or Unreal Tournament. So it's going to. You're really, really taking a risk with this game where, you
might turn off the hardcore military guys, be like, why am I double jumping in a game?
And then where do they and then where do they turn to? They turn to Battlefield. And then suddenly Call of Duty is lost. They have to rebuild, and then it's like, can you get those players back? When players start to turn on a franchise, it happens quick, and they don't always go back. Look what happened to NBA Live. That series has been struggling ever since 2K got their shit together.
Didn't they go 2 years without a game?
Yeah, they did.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, and then they came back with a game that was awful.
Oh, but at least there's more than one basketball game out there you can get.
Yeah,
it's not like EA where it's only one. One NFL. Anyway, so you don't see Danny Sullivan's Indie Heat having multiple franchises year over year. They have one good franchise. They stick to it.
It's not a franchise. It's one game.
Well, I have rumors that there's a second one on the way.
Oh, yeah?
With career mode.
For career mode.
So, that's my point. You don't have to... that's the point is that they are becoming, totally EA Madden franchises. But you can't really do that with anything other than sports, though. There's no necessity to have a yearly release of any franchise unless it's a sports game.
Other than you deeming it so.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so now it's finally catching up.
Because they could have taken. It would have made them as much money, but they could have realized, hey, we've got a really good thing with Black Ops, and continued to reach map expansions. And just let those same core gameplay principles that people liked be what drives. Because you're still going to sell more copies of it. At a slower pace, but then you've got money coming in from DLC. Whatever. Anyways, fucking Christ. Next topic. Another one that I'm not so pleased about.
So, WWE Hell in the Cell. Which is one of their bigger pay-per-views because the Hell in the Cell is like the new Steel Cage. And they still have steel cage matches every once in a while, but the Hell in a Cell is a cage that surrounds the ring. It's not connected on the outside of the ring. You get like 4 or 5 feet in between the ring, and then there's a top to it. You can go on top.
Lit it off.
And so basically, they've started the first Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, 97, which is what almost ended Shawn Michaels' career, which eventually he was out for 4 years after 98. But anyway, it's very dangerous because people are always dropping. Tons of weapons. Mick Foley's been in a few of them. He's known for them. Without Hell in a Cell, people wouldn't even know about Mick Foley anymore. He's gone through, we're talking like a 25-foot drop.
98, he lost his tooth through his nose.
Lost his tooth through his nose. And then he had the one with the Triple H match with all the thumbtacks, and I think there's thumbtacks in the Undertaker match as well. So anyway, it's a brutal match on these wrestlers, but also it's usually a match that establishes or ends, like story arcs. So Mick Foley's actual last match before he came back for a small run was losing to Triple H in Hell in a Cell.
Right.
That was his last match. I think it was a 2 out of 3 or whatever, something like that. So they were setting up, which is the hottest feud right now going on in WWE, which is good and bad. It's good because there are young guys that deserve the shot. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose.
Both of whom I love, especially Dean Ambrose.
These are always the two guys. I always said these are going to be the breakout stars, especially Dean Ambrose. But Rollins is fantastic. The selection of Rollins to be the one to turn heel against the Shield was the perfect choice. He needed it the most. He was sort of the one overlooked usually, so he was a good choice for it.
I mean, I still think breaking them up that early was...
Well, in retrospect, they had to.
They had to.
They would have been screwed if they
had to. But I do agree with you on that. I mean, Rollins was the right one because it gave... Reigns will stand on his own as a big guy. Ambrose is good enough on the mic to be on his own, but Rollins needed a heel turn to make himself worthwhile. But
Rollins just took the ball and ran with it.
Oh yeah, no, he's great. I mean, he's really
on
good.
the mic, in the ring. He's put on a great match. He had a good match with Cena on Raw. So he's been holding his own.
His mic skills have improved
yeah.
dramatically too. So, anyways, the main event was Ambrose Rollins, and I mean, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I thought it was pretty much shit, and that's without the garbage ending.
I thought it was average.
Okay, average,
but
adequate.
It was adequate,
which a Hell in a Cell main event between those two guys should not have been adequate, and that's what I was saying after I watched it with people. That by no means should have been an average match.
No, because it was a payoff to a hot feud going on for what I think the Shield broke up like 3-4 months ago.
Yeah,
4 months ago, something like that. So you think that would be, wow, this is going to be like huge and epic. Like, and plus that was the last match of the night. The other co-main event they put in the middle of the card, which was Randy Orton versus Cena for the 50th time.
Boring as shit.
I actually heard that was a good match.
It was by the books.
Cena Orton match.
It was a by the book Cena Orton match. The fact that Cena won makes no sense to me. Not that Orton winning would have been any better, but Cena just lost twice to Brock. Mm-hmm. Why did he just win another shot against Brock?
Well, he got close to winning on the second opportunity, which was a really bad decision. But
anyway, back to the main event.
Back to the main event. We'll go back to Orton Cena. So basically, they fight on top of the cage for like 10 minutes before the match even starts, along with Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury, which is great. The New Stooges. I always loved Jamie Noble. Jamie Noble was so good, so underrated. The fact of the matter is, he was a smaller guy. He was so entertaining and a really good wrestler too.
He was.
We're talking about 2004 to 2007.
Then I must have seen him somewhere else because I don't.
Well, he played like the trailer trash character. He had the girl with him, who was the first Tough Enough winner. That's in WWE.
I'm just trying to remember where else he wrestled because I don't think I saw him in WWE. Anyways, Jamie Noble
he was in WCW, I think, as well.
Okay, Jamie Noble was good.
Yeah.
But so they're starting off on top of the Hell in a Cell, which is interesting because normally, you're not supposed to do spots off the top anymore, and they were hitting each other, and I think there was even a suplex up there.
A couple moves,
right?
Yeah.
So that was interesting, and I actually thought it was kind of off to a good start, and then they start climbing down. So they won't do anything off, and the worst forced spot in
it was bad.
The thing is it should have been such an easy spot, and I say that as a guy sitting here. Obviously, I'm not them, but they're climbing down the side of the cage, and they're fighting back and forth on the side of the cage, just throwing punches and swinging.
They're about halfway off the cage.
Yeah, about halfway off the cage. And what happens is Ambrose hits Rollins, and Rollins falls, and then Ambrose in all the replays, they couldn't make it look good. You can see him holding onto the cage, and Ambrose literally takes a leap off the cage into the table. And all they had to do was both throw a punch or something, so they both fell. But
they had Ambrose headbutt him, which you could say, okay, he was woozy, then he fell, but it didn't look good. It did not look good. What also didn't look good was the total telegraphing, because it wasn't like they climbed down, then they fell off. It was like they climbed down a full minute until they came. So it gave you can see both announcce teams step all the way back. They get their iPads and computers.
Oh,
they know
yeah.
So it was really badly directed.
I don't even know how I could possibly forget about that.
I could picture Vince in the truck yelling, "Don't show him!" Like because WWE's really good at not screwing up telegraphing stuff like that. The cameraman was totally in the wrong position.
No, I was watching it with it was Vonnie, myself, and my buddy Chris, and we're watching the pay-per-view in Buffalo, actually, because I'm still in Buffalo. And Chris goes, "Oh my God, are they really standing up? Oh my God, are they really pulling the monitors out?" And they were pulling the monitors out before they had even gotten halfway down the cage. I mean, they were planning the spot visibly.
So it was that bad, where that was even on camera to pull the monitors out?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what sucked about it is if you saw it coming from a mile away, which even if they had gone off the top, would have ruined a lot of the impact of it. But the fact that it was a fairly low impact spot off the middle of the cage, and it was obvious it was coming, it was just a bad start to the match.
It was too much of them trying to go for a cool moment.
Yeah.
Or they could have just not even went to the top of the cage. They could have just started inside, had the same exact match, and it could have been a little bit smoother, because they only were inside the cage for like 10, 12 minutes, it seemed like. It wasn't that long at all.
Because then there was a stretcher spot.
Which lasted forever, like at WrestleMania. They basically did the same thing with both on the stretcher. This time it didn't fool me. And then they go in the cage. You have, chair shots back and forth. Both guys go through a table. So it's like, okay, this is every
There was some interesting table placement. I thought some of the stuff they did with the
power bomb.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
The elbow.
But yeah, the match itself,
Spot fest.
Well, here's the thing. I would have liked the match a lot more if it had been that short 5-minute match inside the Hell in a Cell without all the fucking stupid accoutrements. The spot off the side, the stuff on the top, the stretcher spot. If it hadn't been surrounded by so much nonsense, and it was still a decent little bit of wrestling.
It just fell apart. It was one of the few times where WWE did not do a good job of not showing the seams, basically. And now I'm going to watch for Jamie Noble every time, because his performance is just funny as hell. So Jamie Noble is like they're wheeling him away, and then when Ambrose gets off of his gurney, he goes in, Tax Bombs, throws him in. The referee still want the match to go on, so the one's inside the cage, the other one's outside, and they usually lock the Hell in a Cell door. And he's putting the chain around it, and Jamie Noble's right in his face. He's like, "Don't you lock that! Don't you lock that!" And it's like, well, you can punch him or tell the ref these guys are too injured. So it was just really bad writing. That's really what it was. Just bad writing. That's where usually WWE, you don't see bad writing on their main event match like that. That was just really off from to do something like that.
Well,
yeah,
I've noticed what was the recent one that really pissed me off too. There was a recent pay-per-view. It wasn't a Hell in a Cell. I think it was a cage match, and it was the Wyatt Cena match.
Okay,
and I was like, this is gonna be great, and it was awful because they were too focused on the gimmicking, like the gimmick of it, that they couldn't they didn't spend any time focusing on putting a good match. Because here's the thing, Cena aside, Wyatt could have carried Cena to a good match inside a normal ring. You know that Ambrose and Rollins can have good matches. So what's the problem here? They're getting signals from everywhere, and they're focusing too much on the gimmick.
Yeah. So lots of just spots with weapons and tables, and then the denouement was coming where somehow it's always funny how they manage to put stuff under the ring. Somehow Dean Ambrose gets 2 center blocks under the ring, brings them out, and then puts Seth Rollins' head on it because he's going to do the curb stomp to him, how it was done to Dean Ambrose to get him injured. So he goes to do it, and then the lights go out for like 35, 40 seconds with that backwards chant. Yep. Then the lights come back on, and it's a weird hologram in the middle. Some weird hologram effect, which I never saw WWE do before. And then smoke, and then it's Bray Wyatt showing up to inexplicably attack Dean Ambrose.
Inexplicably. And I like Wyatt. I as a wrestler, I really like Wyatt. I find his gimmick to be getting tiresome with the whole "I'm so spooky, I'm gonna walk around like a spider."
Which is funny. He's only been doing it for a year and a half.
I know, but like it's. I like I said, I do like Bray Wyatt as a wrestler. But where is this all going? What I mean, is this really going to be the end of the Rollins? I mean, Ambrose.
Well, no,
feud?
it's not.
It can't be.
It's going to extend because it has to. It didn't get a clean finish.
Right.
You'd hope. I think maybe this was their way of bringing Wyatt's been gone for what 2.5 months now at this point. 3 months 2.5 months since he beat Jericho, during that cage match and ended that feud and sent Jericho away again. I guess this is the way I would have booked it. I would have had, done it where they found a way into the cage and you had Kane and all of them gang up, and then someone saves Rollin. I don't know who. Then you can go towards a traditional Survivor Series match at least to keep it going that way, which is going to happen anyway. They're going to have Team Cena versus Team Authority, which is actually a pretty good idea.
Right.
I love traditional Survivor Series matches.
Sure.
But I think they want to put Wyatt in this spot to establish quickly, and they have another main eventer. They have to do this now.
And
there's no one else. The roster is dead.
And that's what I said too. I said I think I understand what they're doing in the long run here. When Vonnie and Chris and I were discussing it afterwards, like we all know why they did it. I mean, they kind of have to. They need someone else in playing big league, basically.
Yeah.
But it was just so forced and out of nowhere. And it ruined, like I said, it took an average match that shouldn't have been average anyways, and it really just made it a wash. I mean, worthless to me. I after watching it, I mean, I didn't care much for it. To briefly cover the rest of this, I mean, couple other things.
We'll just cover the main event ramifications, since usually the main event's the biggest story in wrestling. Now it's not, because Lesnar hasn't been around for the past pay-per-view. He's not going to be around for this one. He probably won't be around for Survivor Series. So now you're in a situation where you can't blame Lesnar. You blame WWE. If they're going to put the title on someone and not have him defend it, you have to build up these other feuds. So now you're not going to have the title defended for 3 months because he's probably not going to have it up for grabs at Survivor Series. So you're running out of main eventers. Obviously, you can't feed someone like Ambrose to Lesnar. That'd be a waste, and then you have Ziggler, who you could do that. I still think Ziggler's going to face Lesnar at some point. I think they're going to build him up to do that. But
I do want to. Okay.
But at this point, Cena's not going to beat Lesnar again. It doesn't make any sense for him to beat Lesnar again. It doesn't make sense for Cena to ever have the title again. It wouldn't make any sense.
No.
At this point, he only got it because Daniel Bryan got injured. Otherwise, he would not have gotten it at all.
Right.
It would have been Bryan getting destroyed by Lesnar at SummerSlam. So that's where you're at. It's interesting though that with Orton, they're going to try to turn him face. He actually RKO'd Paul Heyman, which was very interesting. He did that last week.
Yeah.
So I was expecting Lesnar to show up and destroy Orton, which didn't happen, but at least they planted the seeds for that down the line, that maybe they'll build up Orton to face Lesnar at like Royal Rumble or something.
There is, I've said it before, there is something about me that likes Orton. He's not great, but he's good.
He's consistent.
But I like Orton as the eternal heel. I mean, I've always liked Orton
because he's a dickish person in real life, and it comes across when he's a face. That's the problem.
Is he really a dick in real life?
Yeah, there's a lot of stories of him just being a massive dick.
Well, I just think he makes a good eternal heel. I do want to touch real quickly. You probably didn't see it. The Intercontinental title match.
Didn't watch it.
Okay, it was a 2 out of 3 falls. Cesaro Ziggler. And while I didn't like the ending because I'm a Cesaro mark, Ziggler won. I mean, I do like Ziggler too quite a bit. The thing is, I like both the guys in it. What I didn't like was that Ziggler beat him 2 in a row.
Oh, usually they always do 3 falls.
Right. So I mean, that is a way of keeping things fresh, but I still feel like they're really, and someone's like, Ian doesn't understand heat. They're killing any momentum Cesaro has.
No, Cesaro has none.
Yeah, I have no idea why they won't give it to him.
He was poised to be a top 4 or 5 wrestler in the Federation after WrestleMania, and now he's nothing.
And people love him. I mean, he goes out there, he's got a moveset, he works incredibly well. He does. I mean, he's one of the best, if not, he's one of the best wrestlers they have.
They even had him stop doing the swing for a little bit for some dumb reason.
He did it during the Intercontinental.
But I mean, he's a guy that I always said, wow, how about him versus Lesnar at some point?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I have no idea why they won't push him. But on the other hand, I'm just hoping he gets something next pay-per-view where he gets a victory. Because what I did like about the Intercontinental match is that by Ziggler keeping it, they are slowly but surely trying to put importance back on that belt.
You say that, but then he loses on every other Raw. So I mean,
Well, by making it
yeah.
a non-title match.
these stupid non-title matches.
See, I don't watch Raw, so I don't see this.
These stupid non-title matches they've been doing more and more. I think for the past, I'd say 4 years, about 5 years, where now when you see a non-title match with a guy who has the U.S. belt or Intercontinental, it's almost an automatic loss. Like these non-title matches did not exist. They did not exist even 10 years ago this consistently with the champs.
No, they did. Not that consistently, but they existed.
I don't remember watching Saturday Night's main event and having non-title matches over the IC belts. I don't remember that at all. I just don't. Or the heavyweight championship.
I'm fairly certain at least Hogan fought I'm fairly certain he fought a handful of
a handful over the 12 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, all I'm saying is that they did exist. Not
all right.
Sure.
It bothers me, but all right, we got to move on.
We do
from our wrestling talk. So you fans are there that enjoy that wrestling talk. There you go. It's never going to be a separate podcast.
We gave you a solid dose. NES Marathon memories, man.
Just from last year.
From last year? I don't know. See, the thing is after 24 hours, it's like an acid trip. You remember all of these things, but you remember, like, so many details non-precisely. I remember you napping again like a scrub.
For an hour! I napped for an hour!
Yep. I saw in the comment section you told someone you never fell asleep at all, just once for 10 seconds during Jackal.
Yeah, while I was playing.
You took 2 1 hour long naps. Anyways, so remember you doing
If I didn't take those hour longs, I would have fallen asleep while playing a game again. I'm proud of my hour naps.
I'm proud of you.
You know what? At the end of the marathon last year, I was in a hell of a lot better shape than you were.
I don't give a shit. I stayed up for 24 hours.
Oh.
So,
why is that a big thing that you stayed up for the whole 24 hours anyway?
Because if you're doing a 24-hour marathon, you're supposed to stay up for 24 hours.
But then when they do Desert Bus, they take shifts.
Yeah, well,
Joey takes shifts on his marathon, and so you're saying we're better.
That's more than 24 hours.
So we're better than
We're better than that.
We're better than
And they're also longer marathons where they literally need to sleep. 24 hours is nothing.
They won't do 72 hours. We'll get rotations. All right, go on.
So I remember that. I remember dancing to a lot of music, which I do every year. I don't have a lot of specific memories. These are things that fall out of my memory fast when it comes to the marathon.
All right, so we'll build up new memories in a week and a half.
Yeah.
Basically. All right, we're going to go to Q&A. This is from at MJOH74. Why is Contra for the NES $30? There were literally hundreds of thousands of them produced and sold.
As a shop owner, I can only say this. It's popularity and its demand. It's a game that I get calls for 5-6 times a day sometimes. I can't sell it. I know there's millions of copies, but you know what? I don't see millions of copies of it. It's common, sure, and you can find it, but I see Contra, because of its demand, maybe once or twice a month. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I'm not pricing it at $15 when I'm getting calls for it every day. It's going to be on my shelf for 2 seconds.
And plus, you'll get resellers coming in and buying it.
Right, and then selling it for $30. So, I mean, I understand that people get upset sometimes when they see these common games that they think should be a lot cheaper. But if the market demands it, there is going to be an increase in price. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of game that even when you see it for sale, like at a Retro Gaming Expo or one of these, it's gone. I mean, all the copies are sold the first day. They're done. They're gone. That's like one of those games, like I guess, like you can say, like a Super Smash Brothers, where they're going to be gone no matter almost what the price is on it. They're going to be gone.
Yeah, it's kind of like when someone buys an NES, that's one of the first games they want, and you want to have those in stock for those people to buy. And the thing is a place like us, we give a discount on games that you buy with a system anyways, so it's going to become a more reasonable price. But if it's not priced at $30, then you're never going to find it when you buy your system.
Hey Pat, the NES Punk, tell us some of your favorite Halloween costumes growing up. I was Lion-O in '86. I bet Ian was a Ninja Turtle. Were you a Ninja Turtle, Ian?
I was never a Ninja Turtle.
I was a ninja a few times. Twice.
My mother sewed most of our costumes for a long time, and she did a really good job. And my favorite was she made me a pterodactyl costume.
Like Terry from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
No, and it was just it was orange fabric, and it was really plush, and it was wings, and it was awesome, and it was like a hoodie. I put my arm through the wings, and it was like a hoodie, and you pulled the hood up, and it was a plush stuffed pterodactyl head that my mom
Oh
made.
God, I want a picture of that.
There are pictures somewhere.
I would usually rotate in between like cowboy, very young, military, and then you go to pirate, and then ninja. It's sort of rotating between those four. If you know what I mean, when you're young, it's always like violence, 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 violence. Rotate, violence. So one of my worst memories though was, I want to say, first or second grade. Still remember his name. His name was Ian. One of the only other Ians I've ever known. What was there was two Ians in my grade school. The one that was there the entire time, the other one left it there a few years. It was the one that left there a few years. I don't remember his last name, but Ian is a very nice guy. We both were ninjas that year. The only ninjas. We're on the playground. And so I guess they want us to fight. He had a much better costume. I never got the deluxe costume. I got that entry level children's costume that cost like, even I guess in the 80s, early 90s.
With like the plastic bag shirt.
Yeah, they cost like $9.99 or
Right.
$14.99 at Kmart.
Yep.
Or drug fair. God bless drug fair. Anyway, so I had my sword, and my sister actually was cool enough to make me like, she would cut the ninja stars out of cardboard and then get like the sandwich wrap and put around it. The foil, the tin foil, and put around it. She made me throwing stars
That's
because
awesome.
we couldn't afford. I had
yeah.
the deluxe one. So I guess they want us to fight, and so we went like this, both of us with our swords, and then he cracked my sword in half, basically.
I saw this coming from a mile away.
His sword
awful.
was definitely the deluxe one, and mine was the thin sword, from the shitty costume.
Right.
And I just looked at my sword; it was cracked almost at the handle. Everyone was laughing at me in the entire grade. I almost started crying.
Aw.
I was so sad. My sword was ruined, and this was at recess. So the rest of the day, I had to like pretend my sword was okay and put it in the sheath and try to put it. It was so bad.
I remember.
So bad. That was my worst Halloween costume experience because of that.
As far as worst, it wasn't because my mother made them poorly. I remember one Halloween. So my mother, I remember going as two comic book characters, one year and then one the next. My mom made me a Hobbs costume, and my mom made me an Opus costume. And the,
Oh, wow.
And the Opus costume was freaking fantastic because she got the nose sewn all perfect, like, his weird proportions.
Mm-hmm.
But my brother and I, the one year, I went as Hobbs and he went as Link. And my mom made all the costumes. And we were so pissed because I was a tiger and my brother was Robin Hood to every house. And it was like, what the fuck? Only one house got it right and they got both of us right. It was like, yes. Anyway, next one from Fuzzy Cthulhu. Apologies if I've asked this before, but as you get older, do you find yourself preferring shorter games?
I do.
I definitely do. My ideal game length, when a review says a game is not worth it because it's 7 hours long, I go, that's the type of game for me. As long as the game mechanics are good, like if I can beat a game in 7 to 10 hours, perfect. Once you hit like the 20-hour mark, or even crazier like the 100-hour mark with the Skyrims and stuff,
Sure.
I'm just never gonna finish them.
I would love to play. Like Skyrim sounded awesome when it was announced. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. I think I actually bought it used. It's sitting somewhere. I'm never going to be able to play it. I'm never going to be able to play. South Park: Stick of Truth got excellent reviews. I'd love to play it, but I don't have even 20 hours to burn.
It's 12
playing it.
hours.
It's only 12.
Yeah, you can get to that game in like 10 from what I hear. So you should probably play that one.
So, but overall though, it's just that you have responsibilities. We're not in college anymore where you can just play Chrono Trigger for 12 hours straight.
Yeah.
I remember actually I had a kid in my hall, I think freshman year or sophomore year, when emulators started getting discovered and good, and you had SNES 9X, and his grades totally suffered. He had to leave the school because he was just playing Final Fantasy and Secret of Mana and Chrono Trigger on his Super Nintendo emulator. That's all he did. He didn't even go to class. Poor Alan. You're out there somewhere.
Oh, that was a delicious pediatric electrolyte. Pineapple flavor.
So it's not alcohol in there. So anyway, yeah, it's just that there's less time. So the traditional platformers or sports games. The last game I played with any sort of length was LA Noire, already like 4 years ago. That was like probably like a 9-hour game, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But anyway, so next question is from at Porchlight1. Can we get an Ian only podcast to even out the last one, and to mess with people to think Pat's gone? Well, you give away the joke, I guess.
Yeah, no, I would feel weird after about 5 minutes and probably just leave. I don't want to talk. I mean,
you don't think you can carry it? No.
well, if I had enough that's one of those things where, honestly, and I'm not going to do it, but if I'm just pretending it's reality, I could do it once a month if I really called a bunch of topics that I was really interested in and just hit a bunch of bullet points. You know,
Well,
I could do that,
But
but
I did an hour by myself. It's possible.
I certainly have no interest in doing that.
You can just do an hour on microbrews to piss off the people that think you're an alcoholic.
Oh yeah, I could do that. That would be fun.
This is at iBrainiac. Seeing how YouTube is now flooded with video game personalities, do you think the market will be around in 5 years? Oh, definitely the market will be around. It's just what will it look like? So now you're at an interesting point, I'd say, for the past really 2.5 years, definitely. Since probably early 2012 is sort of the line of delineation when you have the big media conglomerates starting to get into the business of YouTube and online media. And so pumping tons of money into YouTube and Google and wanting to see return. These are companies like Polaris, which is under Maker, Machinima. These come from huge, there's a lot of money invested in these companies, like millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so what happens is now you have sort of a Hollywood system taking over on YouTube where the people that are part of these big networks where all the money is, these are the guys you know about. These are the guys that get pushed. Not 100%, but by and large, these are the guys that get popular, unfortunately. So I think that's going to continue even more because basically everyone has to make money. Google needs to pay off their debts buying YouTube. They haven't broken even yet. I don't think YouTube's even turning a profit for them yet. So they have to get money. These huge networks have to pay back money to their investors, so they got to make money. So that's why, it's going to be very hard in 5 years from now to be a breakout star, at least right away. It's going to be very difficult. Not only because the market's is already saturated with Let's Players and video game reviewers, but there's not going to be any room to get noticed. So you can be the most talented person in the world. You put your video on YouTube. How are you going to get your name out there to get 100,000 subscribers? How are you going to do that without a help of a network to push you,
right?
And then get your SEO search results up there to get you as a recommended channel. It's no coincidence that a lot of these larger video game personalities and YouTube channels, 99.9% of them are part of these big networks. That's not a coincidence. It's not just that they got popular then got added to them. They were plucked out of either semi-obscurity, or people did say these people were talented, got picked up early when these networks started to get bigger, and then they were pushed. And then every time you watch a video on the right, you'll see recommended. Oh, another video by that personality. I'll check them out.
Right.
After you watch a video, check out the video, and the same people keep showing up. So gradually then that established the base, and all of a sudden that's like free marketing. So it's like Hollywood versus independent film system. You can have very good independent films, but no one's going to see them because they don't have the marketing dollars behind them and they don't have the advertising dollars. So they don't. How are you going to find out about them? Same thing's going to happen with YouTube. It's happening now. It's just going to get more and more tougher. I'm glad that I started, and I didn't even start as early as I could have, but starting in 2008, I sort of avoided some of this now. If I started nowadays, if we start this podcast nowadays on a channel with no subscribers, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Not saying you can't succeed, but the deck is definitely more and more stacked against you year by year. Next question.
Last question
on this shorter podcast, the CU podcast.
A Halloween question.
From Jaron at Jaron0004, who writes for the Punk Effect.
Halloween is here.
Almost.
What is your favorite treat? Least favorite? Butterfingers are so overrated. #.
Yes, they are. They get stuck in your teeth.
I like them, but okay. So for me, I'm a candy junkie. I like anything sweet. I always found that when I was a kid, I would eat the Kit Kats, the peanut butter cups, and the Skittles first. Those were my favorites. But
the higher end.
Yeah, but I like some of the lower end candies a lot too. The ones that most people pass by. Like I love Smarties. And
I was going to say Smarties are great.
I love Smarties.
Is that an East Coast thing more than West Coast Smarties?
I think so. As much. Yeah. I love Smarties and I love Necco wafers.
Never got Necco wafers as a kid.
Never?
Never. I got Charleston Chew, which is the worst chocolate treat ever. Old ladies would give you Charleston Chew. I've never seen someone buy a Charleston Chew in my life, and they sell the big ones. I've seen them.
Yeah.
I've just never seen anyone, buy one, eat it, and live.
I've eaten them. I mean,
they are real. When they say chew, there's some chew going on in Charleston Chew.
There's some longevity there.
What is it? It's like pure hard caramel, basically.
The thing to do with the Charleston Chew is put it in the fridge and then break it on the counter. And
then break your teeth when you chew it.
And well, at least you get tinier bites. The only candy that I didn't like getting when I was a kid, and there's two types of it, and one is good and one is awful. And you usually got it from the houses of older people. It's that generic orange wax paper wrapped white taffy that is supposed to be like peanut butter taffy. And it just tastes like nothing. It's awful.
Okay.
And there's one now, and then there were ones.
I'd really get taffy, but okay.
There were ones that actually had peanut butter in the center, and those were good. But the ones that were just supposed to be like a peanut butter flavored taffy piece, they were never good, and they were always the ones that were left at the bottom. The thing is, I love stuff like Abba Zabbas, which are taffies with peanut butter in them and stuff like that. But there was like a generic Brock's orange wrapped peanut butter taffy, and it was just. That
gross. Sounds well. Taffy is definitely more of an East Coast thing since that's where it originated. But I think. I didn't talk about my favorites. I always liked, obviously, you have your standards. You have your standard Hershey's. You would love it when you found a house that gave you a full Hershey bar.
Or like a full Snickers.
The almond one or the I say almond because my dad does, almond, or the regular one. But then again, I'll go off for a half hour about how Fun Size is half the size it used to be. Fun Size used to be almost half the size of a Snickers bar. Now it's like a fifth.
And can I also state that, especially with Snickers, I don't eat Fun Size Snickers bars. Why? Because they don't fucking taste the same. I swear to God,
a different plant.
I have said this since I was like 5 or 6. They don't taste the same. To me, they don't taste anything like a normal Snickers. I'm sure it's mental, but they don't taste anything like it.
Not that you're mental at all. But the Fun Size have gone down on like the Three Musketeers. Three Musketeers bars always used to be bigger to begin with. Remember how they're always like, I'd say 25% bigger? But the biggest offender, the Fun Size Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, is not even close, because not only are they like, it's like a Fun Size was a half. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup traditionally was 2.
Right.
So if you
get one.
If you were Bobby on the street, he'd get the big 6 king pack and refuse to give little Pat one. He always asked for one. Asshole. He may not be responsible for breaking my arm when I was 3. Anyway, so that's a whole other story. So the Fun Size is not only just one. Have you seen a Fun Size lately?
No.
They're like a nickel size. They are not the same size of a traditional. Unless a 2-pack, they've gotten smaller too.
No.
They are terribly sized.
I don't know.
They are barely bigger. That it basically a Fun Size peanut butter cup is almost the size of like the mini wrapped ones.
Little foil wrapped ones.
They're like almost the same now. It's piss poor.
I have to say something about Reese's peanut butter cups too. I like Reese's peanut butter cups.
Who doesn't?
Well, me 50% of the time. Have you ever noticed that, like, when you get a nice fresh pack of Reese's peanut butter cups, there's kind of like a crack when you crack into them?
Oh,
and
sure.
The peanut butter is nice and, like, almost gooey, and, like, the chocolate's good. When you open up a package of peanut butter cups, and it's got that weird, like it's not shiny anymore. It's a very dull divot in the center, and you can tell they've been sitting on the shelf for like 2 weeks. No, I don't even want to eat them. I'll give them away.
Give them to me. I love peanut butter cups. Are great. How about I wish I could go trick or treating without getting arrested for being a creep, because I love to do candy research and see how it's evolved or devolved. Do they still sell the bigger Jolly Ranchers, like the big, the big pop size ones that are like 4 to 6 inches long? Do they sell those anymore?
I don't think so. I haven't seen them in years.
Did they die out with our generation?
I
think?
Loved those,
because when you got that. Now, any Jolly Rancher is fantastic.
Yeah.
Probably the most underrated candy. I say of all of them, chocolate or fruit-based, to me, is Jolly Ranchers. Whether it's the strawberry, the sweet apple, or green apple, grape we had. You would get the thin but long ones.
One of the few green apple flavored things that I enjoy.
They got that down. Mm-hmm. They got the green apple down. Anyway, I guess parents would complain nowadays because we're talking, I don't know how many thousands of milligrams of sugar would be in one of those big Jolly Ranchers.
How many cavities were caused by a particle of Jolly Rancher being
that's stuck in your
for months?
So I loved those. I love getting Nerds, and Nerds are still around.
Yes.
Nerds are thankfully still around. They still do the split pack,
and they're still the same exact candy as they've always been.
Still pure sugar and garbage.
Yeah,
they're so good. I don't know if they make them bigger. They used to have the bigger ones. They did the minier ones, but they used to make a bigger one. I think going to that candy store in LA at the mall at the Venetian, I believe, one of the malls, I think has a candy store.
You're talking about a bigger box of Nerds?
Yeah, a bigger box.
I haven't seen it in forever, but I know what you're talking about.
But I think they still make those at least.
Okay.
So those are great. The one candy, honestly, not a huge Tootsie Roll fan.
Oh yeah,
I could do them, but the Tootsie Roll Pop, okay, you like those?
Here's the fucked up thing. I like Tootsie Roll Pops because I think the sucker part of it is the absolute best of any of the filled suckers.
Better than a Blow Pop?
Better than Blow Pop. But I could totally do without the Tootsie Roll center.
It's almost like, all right, you want to stop at the Tootsie Roll.
Yeah.
Versus a Blow Pop where the gum is actually good.
In Charms hard candy isn't bad. So, like, I will, more often than not, I guess these days, go with a Blow Pop because I'll enjoy the whole thing. But, like, man, a Raspberry Tootsie Pop is so good. And then you get to the center and you're like, I don't want to do this.
How about Dum Dums? You like the Dum Dums?
I do like Dum Dums.
Dum Dums are still around.
I love Dum Dums.
I think I have a question mark flavor one. It's still my...
So, do you know what the story is behind the question mark flavor?
No, I don't. But it's like one of the best flavors.
If it's, oh no, maybe I'm thinking Airheads, which I do like too. Airheads, and I think it's the same for Dum Dums. I think the article I read said it's the same. What it is when they are finishing a run of a flavor and they switch over to the next
it's
flavor.
Like the in between.
the first like whatever that come out are the in between mix of two flavors.
I always remember the flavor being. I guess it's hard to describe. It's really hard to describe. It's just like an amalgamation of. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's the same for
Dum
Dum-Dums.
Dum Dums were always good because they were small. Like I actually didn't like having a huge. I was never a big lollipop person. But Dum Dums are small. You can get through one within like a half hour, and like the root beer.
Half hour, freaking 5 minutes.
Well, you know what I'm saying. It's not like a Blow Pop can take forever. Then you get to that weird in between. Should I bite into it and get to the gum or not stage? But the root beer was fantastic.
Butterscotch was good.
I'm not a big butterscotch fan, but that was a good one.
I like butterscotch.
But I mean, we can go through all
all the flavors are fine.
But the whole point was that they were so small, you can have a few of them at a time.
Pina colada. They even had like a pina colada flavor, which was delicious.
They still have all these flavors, I believe. Yeah. But the Dum Dums were great because they were small. And every birthday party with my cousin, we had the goodie bags. Always a few Dum Dums in there.
Yeah.
Always had Dum Dums. So long live the Dum Dums. In terms of other good or bad ones. We can go on this forever. We have to end the podcast.
Apparently, we both like candy, and we feel passionate about it. We both
like candy. I could. You know what? I want to go trick or treating. So I want to.
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Rite Aid tomorrow, and I'm going to buy one of those 400 count bags of Dum Dums for $3.99.
I'll go ahead. I will go ahead. We'll divide it up. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there was even a bad Dum Dums flavor. Did they have a bad lemon one? I don't remember like a bad flavor that they had. They were all different.
I can't think of it. There was a pineapple. I can't think of a single
pineapple. I thought was good.
Yeah, there's not a single Dum Dums flavor that I wouldn't eat.
Sure. And then we've lost some candies along the way. We no longer have some like that rolled one with the nuts on the outside.
Oh
from the
80s.
Remember that one? I don't remember what that was. But that was rarely given a trick or treat. That was like an expensive, more like like a big. You know what I'm talking about? There's no more PB Max.
PB Max was good stuff.
That was pure peanut butter in there, baby.
Yeah, that was excellent. And
that's why I was a chubby kid.
It's a shame.
PB Max is with in my Transformers lunchbox.
When I was a kid, we would trick or treat in my neighborhood, in my grandma's neighborhood, and we knew these people, and some of them would still make like popcorn balls and stuff and hand them out. And I freaking love popcorn balls. You're not going to find a popcorn ball trick or treating.
I don't remember those popcorn balls.
You don't know what a popcorn ball is?
I do not remember those.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Was it Upper New York?
You basically make like a batch of like caramel. And then
this is a custom candy.
And you make a bunch of popcorn and you roll it all together into a ball and you eat it like an apple. Only it's a caramel corn ball.
Oh wow!
Really popular, at least in my neck of the woods.
They gave that out. Now you can't have anything that's unwrapped.
Right. Well, I mean, they would wrap it, but you
can't have something. I mean, I actually got apples sometimes as a kid. Like that, I lived in the era where you still got that. There was no switchblades in them.
And I also got handfuls of pennies.
I got pennies,
and nickels. Yeah.
You know what? And I like that. I would build towards my comics that cost $1 or 75 cents. Right. Why not? And then what was the one thing I was going to bring up that you just threw me off about in terms of candy? Dum Dums, Blow Pops.
Candies that are no longer with us.
Candy corn was terrible.
Fuck that.
By and large.
Yeah, fuck that.
Don't give me a little handful of candy corn. Get the fuck out of here. Never got those more luxury bars like Fifth Avenue's. Rarely got those, but you get one every now and then. But Fifth Avenue's still around, I believe.
It is.
Yeah, I just love that feeling. I used to always use a pillowcase. Bring 2 pillowcases. Mm-hmm. Bring 2, and you have a drop off, so you can drop it off, come back out with 2 pillowcases. These amateurs with your little plastic pumpkin. What do you fit like 4 houses in there? Fit like 2 blocks? Amateur. We go to multiple cities. And how about when you used to walk around, like when you used to go, like your parents didn't give a shit back in the day. I'd go 5 towns over. So, and I was out till 9 at night. And then you get into those weird situations where all of a sudden it's like you and your friend with the older kids that maybe like 17, 18 when you're like 10, and one maybe has an air rifle, so you're scared half to death, or, so you know what I mean? Like those weird situations. God, I miss that.
So I'll finish off this with one quick story about Halloween and how it's drastically changed and neighborhoods have changed before we close out here. There was a house 3 doors down from where I lived. And the guy worked for Troyer Farms. And I don't know if you remember Troyer Farms. It was like a local potato chip. It was a Northeast potato chip, like pretzel company.
Okay.
Kids loved the house because he worked for him. And he would come home every Halloween. He would throw open the back of his van or whatever it was, and he'd open all these boxes. And they were like this size bags of chips. And he had the nacho cheese and the salt and vinegar and all the good flavors. And you would trick or treat, and you would go up, and you would just take whatever bag of chips you wanted. And it was like getting a full size bar. It was one of the first things you always wanted to eat. But this guy, and like I said, this was a very close knit neighborhood. Everyone knew each other. For the adults who were taking the kids out trick or treating, every year, about 4 months before Halloween started, he would take vodka and he would take smashed berries and he would let it sit. And if you were an adult taking kids trick-or-treating and you threw $1 in his tip jar, he would pour you a shot of either blueberry, raspberry, and I think he did cherry vodka.
Wow.
And he did it homemade every year for every year that I lived in that neighborhood that I can remember trick-or-treating.
That is
and my
fantastic.
dad always loved going to that house because, we'd go, I'd grab my chips, my dad would throw him $1 and get blueberry vodka, and we'd just keep on going.
How about those neighbors that thought they were too smart for the room, or you say trick or treat and they go, show me. They say, show me a trick. No, asshole. Trick or treats to you.
Yeah.
You give me a trick or a treat. I don't do a trick for you. But sometimes you would get someone that actually would show you a trick. That happened to me like a few times with like little magic tricks.
Right.
They give you candy anyway, but because no one gives you a trick ever. That should be awesome.
Yeah.
Give me a trick. Why not?
Why not?
Show me something cool. We can go on this more forever. There's so many different stories I have.
We're done.
Just the experience of going up to weird houses when you're a kid, and I rarely had parental supervision. Nowadays, it's like required, or else parents freak out. That's a whole other conversation. But it was always just like, the lights are off. It's a weird part of the neighborhood. There's no Halloween. There's no Halloween.
The decorations are gone.
There's none at all. So this is either going to be no one home, scared, or you would be surprised and get an old lady come out and give you candy. It was always like that weird, scared part of Halloween that I love. Anyway, we're done with this shortened podcast. I'm going to try to have a Halloween video out, speaking of that, Friday night. Probably not, though, since my week has been really shitty with my car battery dying, my phone battery dying, other weird stuff, doing this podcast, which I do love. But you know what? We'll see you in 2 weeks after the 5th annual NES Marathon benefiting the Children's Miracle Network on November 8th and 9th. Tune into that at nesmarathon.com. Please give whatever you can. Spread the word on Twitter and Facebook and your other social media sites. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for another Dead After post-marathon.
Yay!
It'll be fun. So, for Ian Ferguson, I am Pat Contry. Recycle the tapes, even though you're listening to this on iTunes and Stitcher. Bye, everyone.
Bye.